Hey folks, David with Lightroom Zen. So Adobe put out this big update on Lightroom today for Lightroom Classic that includes this new feature called Assisted Culling. They also added some other things like in the removal tool, they added reflection removal, which does not work on glasses. It's only for like shooting through windows or something. People removal, which is for like wide angle shots with people in the frame. And then dust spot removal. It'll automatically detect and remove dust spots if you're shooting like F8, F11, something like that, landscape work and stuff. But the big thing is this assisted culling feature. So in the past couple of years, there have been a lot of services popping up calling themselves AI culling software or plugins, and haven't really found any of them to be of value, especially because oftentimes they charge per image. And that's just like a never-ending money pit, and I haven't found that the results are worth it. I can do it better, faster than those plugins and software options. And I always have to go back and second guess and double check the algorithm that they use to see what shots they kept that are rejected that I would have kept. And then you end up wasting more time double checking what the machine did. So Adobe adding this, and thankfully not calling it AI, because it's not AI, it's just machine learning algorithm based calculations, is really exciting, because this is the first like brand new feature they've added in a while that is going to be useful for a lot of people if it works well, if it works better than the other options out there. So the way it works is you select your folder in your catalog, and then you select how you want it to cull. So broad big picture stuff, this is geared towards portraits right now. You're not going to get any use out of this for things like landscapes or even like bird photography or concerts. It's not really going to be useful for that. But for portraits, it should help get rid of the non-usable shots. We'll see how it does here. So I have 50 selects here. This is from a portrait session for like lifestyle branding, website, blog, LinkedIn, socials, that kind of thing. And we're going to try out the different culling features that they added here. The first one is subject focus. And what you can do is scale up how soft you're allowing in, and it'll select more images, or how sharp you're requiring it to be, and it'll select less. We'll leave it at the default, and we'll take a look here. So these are already culled. I had originally 500 and 522 shots. And I culled down to 50. Those were my 50 keepers here. And of my 50 keepers, it's rejecting a handful. It's rejecting 19 of them from subject focus. So let's look. We can select just rejects and see what it selected. And obviously things like this intentional motion blur shot, it's not going to pass the subject focus test, but that's intentional. So I'd want to mark that as a keeper. Same with this shot. There's not much of the subject's face shown, but obviously this was intentional as well, and I would also mark that a keeper. But what I'm surprised by is all these other shots that are definitely in focus, and the subject is definitely keyed in here exactly like we want them. But according to Adobe, this has a score of 45 out of 100 for subject focus, and the same with eye focus. Now, what I think is happening is they're doing a subject mask. They're detecting this by the same way they do subject masks. And it's looking at this whole mask here, what it thinks is the subject, and it's saying, okay, well, the face is very strongly in focus, very sharp, but this part of the subject's not in focus. This part of the subject is not in focus, because this is all being detected as the subject of this photo, including the laptop there. That's kind of disappointing, because they're obviously not taking into account that this was shot at 1.2. So the only thing that would be in focus was the exact point, that we have very sharp there, and the rest of it should fall off into softness. So we can go here back to our library, and we can turn this down, let it be a little more permissive. We can go down, it goes by tens. And now it's only rejecting those really soft shots. But let's go back to our full catalog library here from all 50 shots from that day. And if we have it at 50, it's deleting a lot of shots. It's getting rid of a lot of these, which again Like it's saying this is not in focus. This is a weak subject focus photo. But this is one of my selects and edits, and it's clearly in focus. Again, the book is softer because it's shot at 1.2. But if we go down to 40, then it's letting in everything except these intentionally soft and out of focus shots. Like this one's got a ton of haze and all, so it doesn't really do a good job detecting that. That's to be expected. So at 50, it's getting rid of shots we'd keep, and at 40, it's letting everything in. So that's not really of any use. So let's go back and let's turn off subject focus. Let's try eye focus. So eye focus should do the same thing, except just care about the eyes. And again here, of my 50 selected edits, it's getting rid of a handful that I'm curious what it's seeing that I'm not, because, okay, let's get 2 side-by-sides here. Okay, these 2. So we're still just at the default 50-50. We could also reject photos without eyes and make sure eyes are open. We'll go ahead and check. We'll check all of those, which didn't change anything here, I think. So we got 18 rejects. So back to all. We've got this one is rejected and this one is accepted. Now these are both shot at the same. This is 1/125th, this is 1/60th, but both at 1.2, similar framing. The one on the right, Adobe says, is sharp by the eye focus, and the one on the left it says is not. So let's look at 100%. And as far as I could tell, they're identical as far as sharpness goes. Adobe said this is acceptable and this is not. Let's see, we're at 100. Let's go to 200%. We can really get in there and see what Adobe is looking at. Okay. So if anything, the left image is sharper, at least on that eye. Yeah, on both eyes, it's definitely sharper. This is a little slightly softer, and this is at 200%. They're both completely fine at regular viewing size. So what does Adobe say here? This one that it rejected is a 45 for eye focus. If this is a 45, then I'm not sure what criteria they're using or how they're calculating this. Because again, this is doing the same thing. This is probably using the masking technology. And if you go to select people, detect people, select that person, and then you can go to eye sclera and iris and pupil. So it's able to mask just the eyes and see how detailed and how sharp all the detail in that area is. And it's marking this as a 45. Let's see what it's got for selects. Let's go through. So here's another one that's selected. And this one says the eye focus is a 74. So this is a 74. And our other one is a 45. I have no idea why this would be rated softer. This is clearly razor sharp, and the raw file is even sharper. I mean, that is as sharp as you get on eyes. So that's not promising. Let's see. The other things we can do are misfire. We can sort out any misfires. And if you hover over it, it'll tell you removes unwanted misfire photos, e.g. accidental shots taken while in the camera or while the camera's in a pocket or a bag. So that could be handy if, you accidentally fired off a bunch of shots that you had the lens cap on or something. It would just call those out. Here, it's also going to get rid of these shots that are not misfires. Again, these are intentional blurred shots. And these are a little more creative. And the Adobe thinks these are misfires. So that's also not super useful. Now, exposure issues. Let's see what it says here. It's got 8 rejected. Let's see. It says exposure overexposed. If we go in, clearly not an overexposed. Let's go to the raw file. And looking at the histogram, also not overexposed. no clipping in this image, press J to see our clipping. We'd have to go really, really an exposure higher to get any clipping. And we'd have to go -4 to get underexposed. But we nailed the exposure on this. We've got no clipping on the highlights, and we've still got full detail in the blacks. So I don't know how they're calculating that, because it's clearly not by white or black point detection. And it just disappeared from our selection here. Hold on, let me go back. So this is a different image. Again, resetting and looking at this, this is not an overexposed image. It's a bright image. Most of the detail, there's more detail in the highlights, but that's not overexposed. Overexposed is when you actually clip like this. So going back here, it says overexposed. Well, it just disappeared again. I didn't press anything. Did it move it to the selected? Let's go look. Did it recalculate there? I think it recalculated and said, okay, this is acceptable exposure. I think that's what just happened as we zoomed in, because this is the image that we were zooming on. Wait, now it disappeared again. Where did it go? Go to all. Was this it? Yeah, let me mark this red. Okay, reset this. Again, no clipping. What's it say? This one's got no feedback issues. Okay, so this one's good. This one, mark this red so we can find it if it goes. Reset this. Again, this is bright. This is a little brighter. There's a tiny bit of clipping here. So I could see why it would at least, and this one I could see why it would flag it, because there is some clipped whites. So that one at least makes sense. But, well, it just changed that one to accepted. So I don't know if it's taking into account our edits, because now the histogram is good. Let's see if it does it again here. So this one is marked as rejected. Let's go into 100%. Let it fully load. Okay. Go back to library. Okay, that one stayed on overexposed. But again, this is not an overexposed image. Far from it. We have tons of detail in the whites. So the exposure issues one is also not super great. Can also try this. Can run this here and see if it flags. Let's see. Let's just go with everything. Let's let it do all the work. Let it call out any misfires, any exposure issues, and any subject or focus issues. And out of the 927 photos, it's rejecting 380. Let's look through here. Again, this is not geared for anything other than portraits at the moment, but these are images that I would think Adobe would interpret as portraits. Let's see, this one says overexposed. Most of these say overexposed, it looks like. This one says eye focus missed. Eye focus. Says C. So I think this is an acceptably sharp image, and I would not say that's eye focus is off. What score did it give that? 45 again. So let's turn it down to 40. Let's turn all this down. And that got down to 226 rejects. Let's see, all of these, eyes open. So it's having a hard time seeing eyes in a lot of these. Which is, that's understandable. I mean, the eyes are open, but Lightroom can't see the sclera, or the iris, and also it thinks they're closed. Here, does it think this is overexposed? Yeah. So it's not going to do a great job with difficult lighting, like a concert. But as we saw earlier, it's also not really doing much for us in the realm of portrait sessions, even when everything's good. Like, of my shots here, it wants to get rid of, okay, let's compare. It wants to get rid of the one on the left and keep the one on the right, because it says the one on the left is overexposed and the one on the right is correctly exposed. and they're shot at the same exact exposure, and they have the exact same settings applied. 1/60th, 1/160th, 1/2, 1/2, 100 ISO, 100 ISO. So I have absolutely no idea what they're saying is overexposed in one and not the other. So based on just that alone makes me not trust this yet. It's worth pointing out again, this is early access. This is not a final feature, but it is a feature release in the release software. This is not Lightroom beta. So I'm not seeing anything useful out of this yet. And with the way it was updating in real time to move things from rejected to selected, that also doesn't give me much. It's not looking at the image after the edits, so it's having to load them in and then apply or recalculate if it thinks it's overexposed or acceptable. So that's kind of questionable too. It should be looking at it as presented, or it should either look at it after the edit is applied, like in this case, or it should base it on just the raw file and not update when you change the settings. Because ideally your culling would be done before you do any edits. So here's another one that says overexposed, but again, this is correctly exposed. So the exposure is off, the eye focus stuff, I don't have any clue how they're getting that some are acceptable and some aren't. Yeah, it's just, let's see, like these back to back where it says one is sharp and one is not. I mean, they're exactly the same. That is indecipherably close as far as sharpness goes on the eye. So I don't see what they're doing for eye focus. I don't understand what they're measuring. And then subject focus, again, is not taking into account, let's see, back at 50. At 40, it's letting everything through, and at 50, it's rejecting things that are clearly correctly in focus. Because it's not taking into account, especially since it's geared to portraits, it's not taking into account that if you're shooting wide open, a lot of times your subject is not going to be fully in focus top to bottom. But if you go down to 40, then it just lets everything through, and that's not useful. It's either doing nothing or it's doing too much. So this definitely needs some work before it's going to be useful. For things like exposure, they need to, so subject focus will start at the top and work down. What they need to do subject focus wise is if part of the subject is sharp, then they need to account for the aperture, because the depth of field is going to dictate how much of your subject is in focus for portraits. So they should know that if this is shot at 1.2 and part of the subject mask that they detect is sharp, then that's probably an acceptable sharp image for as far as subject sharpness goes. For the eye detect, I have no idea, because again, some of these images look exactly the same, but some of them get a score of 45 and some of them get a score of 100. So let's look at those two side by side. So this got a score of 100 and this got a score of 45. Let's go 100%. The left one, this got 100 and this got a 45. But to me, they look exactly the same. So I have no idea what eye focus is doing, what it's measuring. And again, if we go to 40, let's see, for 40, it lets everything in. For 50, it's cutting things that should be in. Again, 100%. How is this not sharp eyes? So I don't know how they need to do an overhaul on eye focus. Subject focus, they could get there easily. You should be able to dial this in better. and they should account for what f-stop you shot at. And then let's see, for misfires, I don't know how they're measuring that. If they're just like not detecting subjects in the scene or something, then they say, okay, well, this was probably a misfire. Exposure issues, this could be fixed very easily if they used an IRE system, where you could say cull anything where more than 10% of the image is above 90, 95, or cull anything where the more than 10 or 15% is below 15 or 20. So you could cut out images that are predominantly overexposed or underexposed. You could dial it in very easily. They could definitely measure that. That would be pretty simple and be very powerful as far as culling based on exposure. So overall, this is pretty disappointing performance so far. It's exciting features that are they're working on. It's nice to know they're adding something like this, but it's very early access, and I would not say it's worth even using right now. Don't even bother running it, because unless you just want to play with it and see how it does, it's pretty arbitrary. It's not really doing anything consistent, and there's no real sense to it, especially when you're looking at side-by-side images, and one it rates 100 and one gets a 45, and they look exactly the same to your eyes. So I'd say just keep culling by hand. I know people say it takes forever and takes them hours to cull, but like just go here, your library module, press E, go through, mark anything usable, mark anything that looks like it might be good with a 1, and just go quickly, and then do a second pass and mark anything that you liked with a 2, and just keep going from there. And you can go through 1,000 images in less than 30 minutes. I do it all the time with concerts and stuff. Just be pretty judicious, be pretty brutal on your own photos, and don't be precious with them. Just try to get like the best 2 or 3 from each set, each scene, each angle, and then call down to like the best 1 or 2 from that, and then actually edit those. Like I turned 500 shots into 50 here, and that made it super easy. A little plug for how I edited these. These are all edited with my preset system. So these are all one-click edits with my Fuji. I believe it's my Fuji preset. So this one's reset. We'll go, let's see. Right here, I've got all my presets. There are 38 of them plus my film presets. But more importantly than that, so we'll go ahead and apply the Fuji right here. And we're going to set our white balance, bring it up a little bit, somewhere around there. Set our exposure, and this was 4x5 originally, so we'll go back to that. So there's an edit. It's that simple. But say that you didn't like certain parts of this preset, you can go in and change with the building blocks of how I make my presets, all the different color profiles. So you can change to other Fuji profiles, other Portra ones. You can really dial in your colors. You can dial in your curves. You can apply different curves here and create your own look and build your own preset for each shoot the same way I do. And then you have calibrations to get more magenta, more green tints. You have color grading, and all of these are stackable. And not only are they stackable, but they are also, let's see, we'll put on a little bit of, let's see, a little Fuji. They're also slidable. You can apply like 20%. So you just want to add a little bit of that. You can add it in at 20%. And then you also have tone settings for all your different tones, your presence, your clarity, all that, your exposure, dialing it in. So let's say that looks pretty good. A little deeper blacks, but it's still nice and soft. And then we can go in and we have masks. We have all our custom masks, luminosity masks, grains. We can add a nice positive vignette, make it really bright and airy. There are fades in here to make more of a film look. We have grain presets that are luminosity based, just like real grain. So the brighter parts of the image get less grain and the shadows get more. There's background softening, great tool for portraits and concerts. And then you have vignette or spotlight, which applies. Let's turn it down. Let's make this darker, but then bring up the spotlight on the subject. and it applies, go right here, it applies a gradient exposure mask on your subject only with a positive exposure. What that means is instead of making the whole subject brighter, it's only making them brighter from the top down, just like where the light is coming from. See that effect? And you can adjust the angle of it if you have light coming from the other side of the scene or from the bottom, wherever the light is coming from, you can fit that and make it realistic and add a nice realistic curve and carving of your light. And then more importantly for concerts, you have all your color corrections that will turn, blue light to normal or red light. It'll fix red light and turn it back to normal color, white balance. And it can really save your stuff. So this is my Lightroom system. Check it out in the link below. It's on Shopify, super easy. You get over 100 presets and everything you need to do all of these edits with. So yeah, rounding up, not really a useful tool yet. Cool to see them adding something this big and this new to Lightroom, but it's just not there yet. And I'm kind of disappointed that the other, let's see, where's some pictures with the glasses. The other tool they added was that I was excited about was the reflection removal. And I thought, that'd be perfect for glasses, but it only works for shooting through like a window or shooting through something with reflection. And you'll see here, after I apply this, nothing. It doesn't do anything. It made the whole image softer, made it kind of blurry. See, that's with it and that's without it. So it just made the whole image really soft. So I'm not sure. It's actually kind of a nice vintage look. Looks like shot through really old vintage glass, soft focus on a film camera. So that's kind of a neat effect, but that's not intended at all. So kind of disappointed that this doesn't do anything for glasses. Hopefully they can use that same technology to get glasses added into the reflection removal, because that is a distraction and it is something you have to deal with portraits and lighting. But those are the two things I was excited about, and neither one of them work in the way I want them so far. I'm sure the dust removal tool works pretty well. There've been plenty of ways to do that same thing for a long time, so it's nice to see them add that in. But the culling is just not there yet. I'll update it if they do some stuff to it, or whenever they come out of early access for this feature, then I will definitely take another look at it and share it with you. But as of right now, I wouldn't bother using this because it's just not doing anything useful that you can't do better and faster yourself. So thanks for watching. Check out the preset toolkit, and I'll catch you next time.